start by asking you guys, as filmmakers, what Blu-ray and DVD opens up for you to show people what goes into the making of a CGI film like The Croods?
Well, for us, one thing was we were able to put some deleted scenes on that didn't make it into the film, because in 4 years of production, we bored probably 4 or 5 times the length of the movie, 300 minutes, and only gets down to 85 minutes. So there's a lot of scenes that we like, but we cut for various reasons. Might be pace, might be something repetitive. So it's an opportunity to put some scenes in there that we had a great time making, but just didn't make it in the film.
This movie in particular, because of the nature of it, it's a road trip. So there isn't a driving plot. There aren't a lot of twists and turns. The changes in this film are all going on inside the family. So for that reason, you could storyboard, you could write storyboard, and even record a number of scenes that could all accomplish a particular thing. And so we would actually, like for any one scene in the film, there may have been up to 5 or 10 versions of that where a completely different thing is happening. But the purpose of that scene would be, for instance, just to make the family feel perhaps more independent. So in the finished film, the family goes through a maze and they have to break up and they have to learn to be a little more independent. But that spot could have been occupied by different things. So in this particular film, we actually did a lot more storyboarding than in an average film.
This movie also employs the new motion capture technology that you have here at DreamWorks. Can you talk about what that opened up for you guys to create The Croods?
That we use mostly for the layout process, which is it's sort of a middle process between our storyboards where we put the 3D characters in, but they're not yet animated, and it's to get the camera to make sure where the camera's going, so the animators know what to animate, because they're only going to animate what's being seen on the camera. They're not going to animate feet if the feet aren't in that shot. I mean, it's just to make things. So, but the one thing that motion capture did is it gave a certain fluidity to that layout process, and also just the actual, the movement on screen. It's, before it was a little bit more rigid and kind of clunky, and so that kind of motion capture. And the other thing I think it did was it got everybody to be in one room and talking about the scene. Because a lot of times we go from room to room to room, you're just giving this, everybody came down, we're doing this, we're watching it, you actually see it up on the screen, in real time, as opposed to, hey, can you make a move from there to there, and then you walk away, you go to 4 meetings and come back, and the artist has done it in his computer. This is more real time, you got feedback, and you could kind of block shots.
What role, because The Croods also has a video game that came out in conjunction with the film, do video games play for you guys today? Especially, you mentioned deleted scenes, but maybe you have a lot more work, a lot more room to work with in a video game than in the confines of an 85-minute movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think anything like that, one of the cool things about those is that they're not going to really further the characters and further the story. They're based on the movie that was already made. But because these films take quite a long time to make, you want to keep them alive in people's memories and imaginations while you're off making, like in this case, we're starting on the second film. And so anything like a TV show or a video game, because there's a lot of kids, frankly, that by the time we make the second film are going to be old enough to see it, that are either not born yet or are just very, very young right now. So you want them to learn about it and to know about it by the time the second one comes out. So they're like, oh, Croods, I know that. Yeah, I want to go see that,
What role do you feel, given how fast technology evolves, technology will play in the sequel in terms of what you'll be able to push beyond what you already did with the first one?
Yeah, every time you sit down to make one of these, one of the first things that happens is they sit down and they say, okay, these are the new things we developed over the course of the last film. So like, Dragons had technologies that we didn't have. And now, by the time this comes out,
there's a new animation system.
Yeah,
that's coming online.
That's right. There's a whole new.
So
That's a big story.
we have to rebuild all our models and stuff because there's a whole new animation system.
There's a much more intuitive system that's been built for the animators, where it's the equivalent of you being able to grab a character and just move it very quickly, instead of typing in commands and or moving it a little bit more arduously.
Pulling virtual strings from the computer. You're actually moving it more intuitive.
Yeah, it's a game changer.
What role do you feel 3D plays in expressing these stories?
For us, the one thing I felt like for Croods was that 3D, because it's an exterior, the entire movie is outside. There's no interiors. Even the inside of the cave is an exterior because the door is wide open and there's dust flying in. It was lent itself, because of the way immersive, we wanted to throw people into that environment like Grug and the rest of the Croods were. So I think in that way it really did help, and the shots were just extensions of shots we had, but gave us some extra, just brought the audience into that world, because it was so important storytelling wise to do that, to feel like, okay, here's what the Croods are going through,